Hello everybody. This lecture is about Routh-Hurwitz's stability criteria. In this lecture, we are going to discuss how to find the stability of a system without solving the system's equation. Before starting the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria, we'll remind some of the basic concepts about stability. A stable system produces a bounded output for a given bounded input, or we can simply say that if all the roots of the characteristic equation of a system lie on the right half of the S-plane, then the system is stable. Otherwise, it will be an unstable system. We can classify a system's stability based on whether it is fully or absolutely stable, conditionally stable, or whether it is a marginally stable system. An absolutely stable system is one which has all of its poles lie on the left half of the S-plane. Conditionally stable system. If the system is stable for a certain range of values, then it will be a conditionally stable system, which means that the system will be stable only for some of the values, while for other values it will be an unstable system, or it will give you an unstable response. Marginally stable system. If all the poles of the system lie on the imaginary axis of the S-plane, then we'll say the system is a marginally stable system. You have to keep this thing in your mind that for marginally stable system, all the poles has to be on the imaginary axis. This is our S-plane. Now, if the poles of the system lie on this left hand side, then it means that the system will be a stable system. Similarly, if any of the poles is on the right hand side, then it means that our system will be an unstable system. And if all the poles lie on the imaginary axis, then we'll say the system we are dealing with is a marginally stable system. So, let us assume that all the poles of your system are on this left hand side, but only a single pole is on right hand side, then it means that still your system will be an unstable system. Talking about Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria, this method actually yields the stability of the system without the need to solve for the closed loop system poles. Say for example, you have this transfer function of a closed loop system and you want to find out the stability of this system. In that case, you have to solve this denominator part, and only then you can say that whether your system is stable or not. So, Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria actually says that you can find the stability of your system without solving for the poles. You can tell using the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria whether the poles of the system are on the left half S-plane or the right half S-plane or on the j omega axis or the imaginary axis. If you want to apply Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria on your transfer function or this characteristic equation, then you have to follow the two steps. First of all, you have to generate a data table which is known as a Routh table. Then the second step is how to interpret the Routh table to tell how many closed loop system poles are on the left hand side, on the right hand side, or on the imaginary axis. However, before applying the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria, you have to make sure that these three conditions are met. What are these conditions? These conditions are actually the limitations of the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria. Number one, This criteria is only applicable to a linear system, so you cannot apply this method on a non-linear system. This method does not provide the exact location of the poles on the right and the left half of the S-plane. It can only tell you whether the system poles lie on the left half of the S-plane or the right half of the S-plane. It cannot tell you where the location of the poles are on your S-plane. In case of the characteristic equation, this method is only valid for real coefficients. So if you have imaginary or complex coefficients, then this method is not applicable. So if we want to apply the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria, we have to consider this transfer function. This is the transfer function of a closed loop system having m number of zeros and n number of poles. So this is a generic form of a transfer function of a closed loop system. The characteristic equation of this nth order system is given here, as you can see here. So this is actually the characteristic equation of this transfer function or of this closed loop system. Before applying the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria, you need to make sure certain things. First of all, you need to make sure that your characteristic equation does not have any negative sign, because if your characteristic equation has a single negative sign, then it means that at least one of the pole of the closed loop system is on the right hand side, and you can say that your system is unstable. So in that case, you don't need to apply the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria. You can only apply Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria if all the coefficients are positive, as you can see here. So this is our characteristic equation, and now we'll start applying the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria on this characteristic equation. In the first step, what we'll do, we'll arrange all the coefficients in the two rows like this, as you can see here. In row 1, we are going to start from s raised to the power n, or the highest power of n. The coefficient of this highest power of s is a naught. So in row 1, we'll write the coefficient of the highest power of s, which is a naught, as you can see here. Then we'll skip the next coefficient and we'll put the next coefficient in the second column of the first row, as you can see here. So a naught is the coefficient of the highest power of s, then we'll skip the next coefficient and place the next coefficient, which is definitely a2 here. Then we'll again skip the next coefficient and put the next coefficient in that place, which is a4. So in row 1, we are going to put the even numbered coefficients. Similarly, in row 2, we'll put the odd number coefficients, as you can see here. So we'll actually skip the highest power of s coefficient, which is a naught. We'll start from this power of s and we'll put its coefficient here, which is a1. Then again, we'll skip the next highest power of s coefficient, which is s2, and we'll put the third highest power of s coefficient, which is a3. So in row 1, we are going to put the even numbered coefficients, and in row 2, we'll put the odd numbered coefficients, as you can see here. So in the first step of making the Routh-Hurwitz table, we'll place our coefficients in two rows like this. Then in the next step, we'll use these two rows to form the third row. Now in the third row, as you can see here, I have put coefficients such as B1, B2 and B3. Now the values of B1, B2 and B3 will be estimated from these two rows, that is row number 1 and row number 2. How do we find out B1 and B2? B1 is equals to A1 into A2 minus A3 into A0 divided by A1. So how did we find B1? Let us look at this table. So what we have done, we have actually used the two columns, that is the one above B1, which is this one, and the one above B2, which is this, and we have multiplied A1 with A2, which is placed here, and A0 with A3, which is placed here, and divided it by A1. Since we are dealing with B1, so we'll consider the column exactly above B1 and the column next to it. This is for B1. Similarly, for B2, we have to actually perform a little bit different strategy. And what is that? Now here, B2 is equals to A1 A4 minus A5 A0 divided by A1. Since this is row 1, so and B2 is placed here. So how do we find out B2? For B2, we have to actually skip the column above column values which are above B2, which are A2 and A3. So we will not consider this column. Then we'll multiply A1 with A4, which is placed here as you can see, and A0 with A5, which is placed here as you can see here, and we have to divide it with A1 as you can see here. So you have to be very careful in finding out B1 and B2 and B3, or the rows below this row number 3. So we'll definitely solve some of the problems, and by solving those problems you'll have better idea how we have estimated these coefficient values. Okay, so let us just look at the overall Routh table formation method. So this is the overall Routh table. This was our characteristic equation as you can see here. So in the characteristic equation, s raised to the power n, this is the highest power of s and its coefficient is a0, and then it is followed by the decreased power of s. So if we want to apply the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria on this characteristic equation, so what we have to do, first of all, in the first column, place s in terms of decreasing power. Now this is the highest power of n, which is s raised to the power n. Then this is the next power of n which is less than this power of s. Similarly, you have to place the next power of s and then the next power of n, next power of s, until you reach the last power of s, which is s0 in our case. Now next you need to put the coefficients in this table. Now here, if you want to fill the row for Sn, which is the highest power of S, you have to start from the coefficient of s raised to the power n, which is a naught. So you will put the a naught here, then you will skip the next coefficient, which is a1, and we have put a2 here. Then we'll skip a3 and then put a4 here. Then we'll skip a5 and put a6 here. Similarly, in the second row, which is actually related to the s power of n minus 1, will start from s power n minus 1 coefficient. Now the coefficient of s raised to the power n minus 1 is a1, and this is the row of s to the power n minus 1. So we have started from a1. Now we have skipped the next coefficient, which is a2, and put a3 here. Then we have skipped the next coefficient, which is a4, and put a5 here. Similarly, we have skipped the next coefficient, which is a6, and put a7 here. So in the first step, you just need to fill these two rows, which are related to the highest two powers of s. The main thing starts from row number 3. Now this is our row number 3. Sorry. Here we have placed the coefficients b1, b2, b3 and so on. How do we find out b1, b2 and b3? The method is given here. For b1, you need to consider the column above b1 and the column next to it, which is a2 and a3. So in b1, we are multiplying a1 with a2, which is placed here, and then a0 multiplied with a3, which is placed here with the negative sign, and this is divided by a1, which is here. So for b1, we have multiplied a1 with a2, a0 with a3 and divided it by a1. Now for b2, you need to skip this column, that is the column values which are above b2, and these values are a2 and a3. Now here you have to multiply a1 with a4, which is placed here, and a0 with a5, which is placed here, and you have to divide it by a1, as you can see here. So once again, I'll repeat this thing. For b2, you have to actually discard all the column values which are above b2. Here these values are a2 and a3. So we'll not be using a2 and a3 for estimating b2. For b2, we have multiplied a1 with a4, a0 with a5, as you can see here, and we have divided it by a1. We'll do the same thing with b3. Now here what we have done, in estimating b3, we will be considering the first column, as you can see here. We'll again be considering the first column, which is a0 and a1. We'll skip this column and this column, and we'll be considering a6 and a7. In estimating b3, we'll multiply a1 with a6 and a0 with a7, as you can see here. So we have actually subtracted a0, a7 from a1 and a6, and again we have divided it by a1, as you can see here. Let us just extend this further by estimating C1 and C2. Now for C1, you have to consider the above two coefficients. C1 is here, so we are considering A1 and B1 and the column next to it, which is A3 and B2. So in estimating C1, we are multiplying B1 with A3, which is placed here, and then we are multiplying a1 with b2 which is placed here, and we are dividing it with b1 which we have put here. So b1 is the coefficient which is the divisor, and we'll be using it for the rest of the coefficients for this row. Similarly, to estimate the C2, we'll using the same rule again. We'll be discarding the two terms which are above C2, and these two terms are A3 and B2. And then we'll multiply B1 with A5 and A1 with B3. So as you can see here, in estimating C2, we have multiplied B1 with A5 which is placed here, and then we have subtracted A1 into B3 from this value, and we have divided this by B1. So you can practice it to see how we have estimated the values of B1, B2, B3, C1 and C2. So the last coefficient, as you can see here, is An, which is related to the lowest power of S, which is 0 here. So this An here is actually the coefficient of S raised to the power 0. Let us solve one example related to applying the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria. So we have the characteristic equation of a closed loop system which is given here. So the highest power of S in this characteristic equation is 4. So first of all, before applying the Routh-Hurwitz criteria, we need to see whether there is any negative sign or not in this characteristic equation. Since there is no negative sign, so we can apply Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria on this equation. In the next step, we'll be making the Routh table for this characteristic equation. The Routh table for this equation is given here. What we have done, first of all, in the first column, as you can see here, we have placed S in descending order. So the highest power of S is placed here, which is S4, then S3, S2, S1 and S0. Next, we'll fill the first two rows. So we'll be starting from S4. The coefficient of S4 is 1 here. So we have placed 1 here. Then we'll skip this coefficient, and then we'll place the coefficient of S2, as you can see here, 3. Then we'll skip S raised to the power 1 coefficient, and we'll place S raised to the power 0 coefficient, which is 1. In the same way, we'll fill the row number 2, which is mentioned here. So in S3, we'll start from S3 term, and we'll place its coefficient, which is 3 here, as you can see here. We'll skip this coefficient, and we'll then place this coefficient 2 here, which we have placed here. Since if we skip next coefficient, then we do not have any term less than this, so we'll not be putting any coefficient here, or otherwise you can put 0 here as well. If there is no value, as you can see here in this box, it means that there is a 0 value. Now then comes this row, which is row number 3. So in row 3, we'll be estimating the first term, which is simply multiplying this 3 with this, okay, and 1 with this, which is placed here, and then we'll be dividing it with 3. So as you can see here, so this overall term is giving us 7 by 3. Then we'll be estimating this term. This term is estimated in the same way. We are multiplying. So to estimate this term, we have to actually discard these two values, and we'll be multiplying 3 with 1, which is placed here, and 1 with 0, which is placed here, and we have divided it again by 3, as you can see here. So 3 by 3, this is equals to 1. Then comes this row. So this row is estimated by multiplying 7 with this 2 and 3 with this 1, as you can see here, and we have divided it by 7 by 3. So the overall term is estimated to be 5 by 7. Now if you estimate the further values on this row, then they'll become 0. So we haven't put these values here. The empty boxes means that there is 0. So 0 is here and 0 is here. The last row, which is related to S0, we have simply put 1 here, and this is the coefficient of S0, as you can see here. So next we need to find out, by interpreting this Routh table, whether our system is stable or not. It is very simple to tell from this Routh table that our system is stable or not. For that, you just need to look into this column 1. So if you want to find out the stability of the system from Routh table, you have to deal with column 1, as you can see here. So what you have to do? You have to make sure that all the elements of the first column of the Routh array are positive. Now if all these elements are positive, then it means that your system is a stable system, because there is no sign change. No sign change means that this is positive, then you have a positive term, positive term, positive term, and positive term. So there is no sign change. It means that your system is a stable system. If you encounter any negative sign in any of these terms, then it means that there is a sign change. In that case, your system will become unstable. So that's all for this problem. When you deal with Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria, you have to deal with 4 different cases. Case number 1 is when there is no 0 in the first column. So we have already done the problem related to case number 1. Case 2 is when you have a 0 in the first column, but all the terms of that row, they are non-zero. So you have a row, only the first term of that row is 0, but the rest of the terms of that row are non-zero. The third case is if all the elements of a row are 0. And the fourth case is you have all the terms in a row are 0, but with repeated roots on the j omega axis. So how do you interpret that whether your system is stable or not? So we'll be solving some of the problems related to case number 2, case number 3, and case number 4 in our upcoming slides. So let us find the stability of a system whose characteristic equation is given here. First of all, we need to look whether this system contains any negative sign or not. Since there is no negative sign, it means that the system can be a stable system. So to find the stability, we need to apply the Routh-Hurwitz criteria. So the Routh table of this characteristic equation is given here, as you can see. First of all, we have put S in the descending order. So the highest power of S is 3 here. So we have put S3 here, then S2, S1, and S0. Next, we are simply placing the coefficients values in the first 2 rows. So the coefficient of s cube is 1, so we have put 1 here. We are skipping this term, then we are placing this coefficient which is 12 here, then we are skipping this term. Since the next term is 0, so we are simply putting 0 here. Then we have to fill the second row. For that row, the coefficient of s square is placed here, which is 6. Then we are skipping next row and placing 8 here, and after that, since we do not have any term, so we are just simply placing 0 here. Now for s1 we have to multiply this term with this, and we have to minus this term, the multiplication of these two terms, and we have to divide it by 6. So we are coming up with this term, and the rest of the terms of this row are 0. Similarly, the coefficient related to s raised to the power 0, it is 8, so we are simply putting 8 here. In the next step, we just simply need to draw whether our system is stable or not. So for that, we simply have to look into the first column. So this is our first column. For stability, we need to look whether there are any sign changes in this first column or not. No, there are no sign changes because all these terms are positive. So it means that there are no sign changes and our system is a stable system. Here is another example. In this example, again we are forming a Routh table. I think so you can easily make this Routh table. It is simply we are placing s in descending order, and then we are putting the coefficients values here. So now here we are actually coming up with some different values in the first column. This is our first column. Now this sign is positive, this is positive 1, but now we have this negative value here and then again positive value here. So we need to look whether how many sign changes have been encountered by this column 1. Here in this column we have 2 sign changes. How do we come up with that conclusion? So we start with the first term. This is positive 1. Positive, the sign of this term is positive, the sign of term is positive. So when you move from this to this term, there is no sign change. However, when you move from this term to this term, there is one sign change, and this is negative. When you move from this term to this term, there is again another sign change. So there are 2 sign changes in the first column of this Routh table. So there are 2 sign changes in the first column of this Routh table. And how do we interpret that? Simply it means that our system is unstable system, and 2 roots of the characteristic equation lie on the right hand side of the S-plane. So based on the number of sign changes, we also find out how many roots are on the right hand side. Since in the first column there are 2 sign changes, that from positive to negative 1 sign change, negative to positive second sign change. It means that 2 roots of this equation or 2 poles of this equation are on the right hand of the S-plane, and our system is an unstable system. Let us solve another example. This example is quite interesting as we have to find the range of values of k for which the system is stable. As you can see here in this characteristic equation, k is an unknown quantity. So we need to find out what is the range of values of k which will make this system stable. In the first step, we'll see whether there is any negative sign or not. We doesn't know k, so we'll assume that this is a positive term. So we can apply Routh-Hurwitz stability because all the signs of this characteristic equation are positive. Next we'll form the Routh table. So the Routh table is formed here. As you can see, we have placed the S in descending order. Highest power of S is here and the lowest power of S is here. Now this is S cube whose coefficient is 1, then this is S square whose coefficient is 3, then this is S raised to the power 1 whose coefficient is also 3. Then this whole term is related to S raised to the power 0. So this is the coefficient of S raised to the power 0. This 1 plus k. In filling up the Routh table, we'll first fill the first two rows. So we'll start from putting the coefficient of S cube, which is 1 here, then we'll skip this term, we'll put 3 here, then since after that we don't have any term, so we'll put 0 here. Then in the same way, we'll fill the second row, we'll start from the coefficient of S square, which is 3, then we'll skip this term, which is S raised to the power 1, and we'll put the coefficient of S raised to the power 0, which is 1 plus k. So we have put 1 plus k here. Now the next terms are 0. Applying the same rule, we'll calculate the third row. In the third row, we'll estimate this term. For that, we'll multiply 3 with this 3 and we'll multiply 1 with this 1 plus k, and then we'll divide it by 3. After doing that, we'll come up with this term, which is 8 minus k into 3. So if you do this, if you multiply 3 with 3 and 1 with 1 plus k and divide it with 3, you will come up with this term, which is 8 minus k divided by 3. And the last term, S raised to the power 0, it is simply equals to 1 plus k, as this is S raised to the power 0 coefficient. Okay. Next, we need to find the stability of that system, or we need to find out the values of k which will make this system stable, because from Routh table the condition for stability is all the terms of this first column must be positive or there shouldn't be any sign change. So this is a positive term, this is a positive term, but we don't know about this term and this term. So here k is unknown. We don't know that whether k is a positive quantity or negative quantity. However, we have to make sure that whatever the value of k is, this term has to be positive, and this term has to be positive in order to make this column with no sign change, which will make this system stable. So for stability, the conditions are this term, which is 8 minus k, should be greater than 0. So if you want this system to be stable, you have to make sure that this term is greater than 0 and this term is also greater than 0. So the range of value, so if you just simply do some transformations, and if you move, because k is negative, so if you move k here and from here if you move 1 there, then you will actually come up with the range of k which is mentioned here. So if you want this system to be stable, k has to be greater than -1 and it has to be less than 8. Only then these two terms will be positive and your system will be stable. Here we have another system and we need to find its stability using Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria. Now first of all, we need to find out the overall transfer function of this equation, because without having the transfer function we can't apply Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria. So this is the overall transfer function of this equation, C of s divided by R of s, which is equals to this term, and this is the characteristic equation. Next we'll see whether we can apply Routh-Hurwitz criteria or not. Since all the coefficients are positive, so we can apply Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria. Now the Routh table is given here. As you can see here, you can quite easily form this table. You can make this table by using the same rules as we have discussed in our previous slides. So we'll just be talking about this column 1, and based on this column we'll discuss the stability of this system. So for stability we need to see whether there are any sign changes in this first column or not. Now the terms of this column are, this is 1, then this is 1, this is minus 72, and this is 103. Now let us see what are the signs of these coefficients. This is positive, this is positive, then this is positive to negative, negative to positive. So actually there are two sign changes in the first column, which means that two roots of this equation will be on the right hand side, and this system is an unstable system. So here is another example. You have to find out the stability of this system using the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria. The table is given here. You can simply solve it to find out whether it is stable or not. Here this system is an unstable system because there are two sign changes in this system. Okay, now let us discuss case number 2. If you encounter a 0 in the first column, then how do you solve it? There are certain rules for solving it. The rules are mentioned here, so we'll just be applying these rules on the problems. So I'll not read out these rules, I'll just apply these rules so that you can understand better what you have to do in case you encounter a 0 in the first column. Here is an example related to case 2 of the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria. This is the characteristic equation of a closed loop system, and you have to find out the stability applying the Routh-Hurwitz criteria on this system characteristic equation. Now we have formed the Routh table, which is given here. Now this Routh table is quite interesting because you can see here there is an epsilon term. I'll discuss how we have used this epsilon term. We'll do the same thing. We'll start from the highest power of s, which is here, and we'll go in descending order. So this is s raised to the power 5, then 4, 3, 2, 1 and 0. Then first of all we'll actually fill the first two rows of this Routh table. The coefficient of S5 is 1, which we have placed here. Then we'll skip this term, then we'll put the coefficient 2 here, then we'll skip this one, then we'll put the coefficient 11 here. Similarly we'll do the same thing with the second row, which is S4 row. We'll put the coefficient of S4, which is 2 here, then we'll skip this term, then we'll place the next term coefficient, which is 4 here, then we'll skip this term and we'll place the coefficient 10 here. Okay, now next we need to fill this third row. Now this is quite interesting because if you solve for this one, you will see that this will be 0, and if you put 0 here, then your next term, these terms will be infinite. So in order to avoid that, what we do, we actually put epsilon here. Now epsilon is a very small positive term which is very close to 0. So for the sake of interpreting the Routh table, we'll consider that epsilon is either 0.1 or 0.2, although it can be any quantity, and we have to assume that it is very close to 0. Okay. Then we have found the next term, which is 6. You can easily find out this term. Then we have to fill up this row number 4, which is related to s square. Here we have put C1, 10 and 0 here. How we have estimated these terms? These terms are given here. Here I have already put that we have considered epsilon is equals to 0.1. C1 is equals to 4 epsilon, that is we have multiplied these two terms and these two terms and then divided it by epsilon. Similarly for D1 it is estimated as you can see here. You can also estimate these two terms as well. Then for S0 we have simply put this coefficient, which is the S0 coefficient. Now C1 has been reduced down to this value, which is minus 12 upon epsilon, and D1 is here. Okay. Now next we have to find out whether our system is stable or not. For that we have to see whether there are any sign changes or not. Since our first term is positive, so if we want to find out whether this system is stable or not, we have to make sure that all the other terms are positive, because only then there will be no sign change. And for that we have to see this epsilon term. Now we have considered that epsilon is 0.1. So if you put epsilon 0.1 here, then this C term C1 will be negative. Okay, so if you put epsilon is equals to 0.1 here, in that case this is positive, this is positive, this is positive, this will be negative, that is C1 will be equals to minus 12 divided by 0.1, which will be a negative term, and D1 will be a positive term. So there will be two sign changes in the first column, and you will have two poles of the system on the right hand side, which means that your system will be an unstable system. Let us solve another problem. Here we have the characteristic equation of a closed loop system. We have to find out the range of values for k for which the system is unstable. So you have to keep in your mind that you have to find the values of k which will make this system unstable. So first of all, we'll develop the Routh table from this characteristic equation. So we'll place s in the descending order, starting from s to the power 4, we are going till s to the power 0. So using the same rules as discussed in the previous slides, we'll fill the first two rows. So the first two rows are 1, 1 and k, and the second row is 1, 1 and 0. So in the third row, when you estimate the first term, you will come up with 0. Since we can't put 0, so we have replaced it with epsilon. Again, epsilon is a very small number which is close to 0. You can consider this number as 0.1 for this example. Next, this term is found as k. Similarly, C1 is found here. Okay. The last term, which is related to S0, is k, because the coefficient of S0 in this characteristic equation is k. So to find the stability, we need to look into the sign changes in the first column. Now here some of the quantities are unknown, which is epsilon, C1 and k. All these are unknown variables, but we know that epsilon is a very small quantity. It is a very small term which is close to 0. So if we use epsilon is equals to 0.1 in this equation, then C1 will be negative because K will always be greater than epsilon. So if we use epsilon very close to 0 in this equation, then C1 will be negative. So there will be two sign changes. Now here epsilon is positive, C1 will be negative, then this K term will be positive. So for these values, our system will be unstable. Here is another example. This is the transfer function of a closed loop system, and we have to find out the stability. For that, we'll form the route table from this characteristic equation, which is the denominator in this transfer function. So here we have formed the route table. This route table contains epsilon from row 3 till row 5. You can develop this route table quite easily. Now the thing is, here we have considered two different approaches to see whether there can be any sign changes in the first column or not. So here is our first column. Here we have epsilon here. Then using the epsilon we come up with this term. Then again using this term we come up with this term. So the problem is we need to find out whether this term is positive, this term is positive, or this term is positive, because if these three terms are positive, then there will be no sign change. However, in case any of these terms come up to be negative, then we are going to have at least one sign change which will make our system unstable. So let us choose that epsilon is a very small positive term close to 0. In that case, this term will be negative, this will be positive, and this will be negative. So here we are going to have two sign changes from positive to negative, negative to positive, which means that we are going to have two poles of the equation on the right hand side, and our system will be unstable. On the other hand, let us assume that epsilon is a very small negative number which is close to 0. In that case, this will automatically be negative. However, this will be positive, this will be positive. So again in that case, you are going to have two sign changes from positive to negative and negative to positive. Even in that case, your system will be unstable. So whatever the value of epsilon is, you are always going to get an unstable system in this case, and you are going to have two poles on the right hand side. So we have discussed two cases so far of the route table. In case 1, there was no 0 in the first column. In case 2, there was a 0. There was a single 0 only in the first column. Then we have case 3. If the entire row is 0, then what you have to do? In that case, we'll be using the auxiliary equation approach. What is this approach? We'll discuss now. In this problem, we are going to discuss case 3 and case 4 of the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria. Case 3 is when you have a complete row 0 equals to 0. When all the elements of a row are equals to 0, then how would you find out the stability of a system using the Routh-Hurwitz table? And case 4 is when you have to use the auxiliary equation to find out the stability of a system. So we'll be actually solving this problem, and this problem actually uses the two cases of the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria, that is case number 3 and case number 4. So we will be actually encountering these two cases in this problem. So we have to find out the stability of this closed loop system whose characteristic equation is given here by applying Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria. The first thing that we have to check in this characteristic equation is whether there is any negative sign or not. Because if there is any negative sign, in that case we will simply straight away say that our system is unstable and there is no need to apply Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria. Since there is no negative sign in this characteristic equation, I have also written the statement, so it means that we can apply Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria on this system. The characteristic equation is given here. This is a sixth order characteristic equation. So, to apply Routh-Hurwitz criteria, first of all, we need to put S in descending order, as you can see here. And next, we'll actually fill the first two rows, that is this row and this row. So, for S6, we'll be considering this coefficient, which is 1, we'll skip this one, and we'll put the coefficient of this as 4, which is 8. Then we'll skip this one, we'll place the coefficient of this term, which is 20. Then we'll skip this term and we'll place the coefficient, which is 16. So for row number 2, we'll start from S5, okay, whose coefficient is 2. We'll skip this term, we'll place the coefficient of this, which is 12. Then we'll skip this term, we'll place the coefficient of this, which is 16. Then we'll skip this term. Since after the last term, we do not have any coefficient, so from now on, we'll put 0 here. For row number 3, what we are going to do, we'll multiply this with this term, this with this term, and divide it by 2. So it is going to be equals to 16 minus 12 divided by 2. So, for this term, we will multiply this with this with this, and we will divide it by 2 again. So, it is going to be equals to 20 multiplied by 2 minus 16 multiplied by 1 whole divided by 2. So 40 minus 16 divided by 2, it is equals to 24 by 2 and 12. So here we are going to get 12. So for this term, we'll skip this column. This column will multiply 2 with 16. So it is going to be equal to 16 by 2 minus 0, because we need to multiply 1 with 0, which will give you 0, and we have to again divide it by 2. So 1632 divided by 2 is equals to 16. So here we are going to have 16. So for S3, we'll actually multiply this with this term, this with this, and we need to divide it with 2. So 12 multiplied by 2 minus 12 multiplied by 2 whole divided by 2, and we'll get 0, because this term and this term will cancel out each other. Here we'll get 0. So if we solve for this term, we'll again get 0. And similarly 0. Now this whole row is 0. So if this row is 0, and if we solve for this term, we are going to get infinity. How? Because for this term we have to multiply this with this, we'll get 0. We have to multiply this term with this term, again we are going to get 0, and if we divide it by 0, so 0 divided by 0 is undefined, an undefined number, so which you can't put here. So what you have to do, we need to use some strategy so that we can actually solve this equation. So for that we use auxiliary equation concept. Auxiliary equation. Auxiliary equation means that a helping equation. What is an auxiliary equation? So this row is 0. So the row above this row, which is this one, will be used as an auxiliary equation to find out these terms. So 2s4 plus 12s square plus 16 is equals to 0. Again, let me repeat this thing. This row, we come up with this row, and all the elements of this row are 0. So in order to solve for this row, we'll use the auxiliary equation concept. What is an auxiliary equation? Auxiliary equation is the equation above this row, which is this S4 row. So if we want to interpret these terms, we can write them as 2 raised to the power s4 plus 12, that will be s square, then that will be s raised to the power 0. Since we don't write s raised to the power, if a term power is 0, so we don't write it. So next you have to integrate it. So you have to derivate this equation. After performing derivation, you will get 8s cube plus 24s is equals to 0, because this term, the derivative of this term will be 0. And here you have s cube and s raised to the power 1, which are the terms of this rock. So you can put from here, you need to put 8 there, 24, and then rest of the terms are 0. Now we'll solve for s square. For s square, we'll multiply this term with this term with this term, and divide it by 8. So 12, 8, 12 multiplied by 8 minus 24 multiplied by 2 whole divided by 8. So 96 minus 48 whole divided by 8. So we are going to get 48 divided by 8. So 6 8 का 48. So we are going to get 6 here. Similarly, we'll solve for this one, and we'll get for this term, we'll multiply 8 with 16, 2 with 0. So 16 multiplied by 8 minus 0 whole divided by 8. So we'll get 16. So here we are going to get 16. Again, so for this term, we'll actually multiply this term with this term and this with this, and we are going to get 24 multiplied by 6 minus 16 multiplied by 8 whole divided by 6. And we'll get 24 multiplied by 6, 144. 4 minus 16 multiplied by 8 is equal to 128 divided by 6. So 16 by 6, and 2 8 ka 16. Okay, so we'll get 8 by 3 here. Similarly, 0 here and 16 here. So next we are going to see whether there are any sign changes in the first column of the route table or not. Since there are no sign changes, that is all these terms are positive, so we can say our system is a stable system. But there is one condition. If you are using auxiliary equation, then you also need to find out the roots of the auxiliary equation to make sure whether your system is stable or not. So, if you are using Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria, and in Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria, if you are using auxiliary equation, so your stability will be based on two things. First thing is, if the first column of your Routh table is positive, and the second thing is, if the roots of the auxiliary equation, if they are not same, only then your system will be stable. Now, if the roots of the auxiliary equation are same, then your system will be unstable. So, when you are using auxiliary equation in Routh table, then checking the first column of the Routh table is not enough to say that your system is stable. You also need to check the roots of the auxiliary equation. So, let us find out what are the roots of the auxiliary equation. So, this was our auxiliary equation and we need to find out the roots of this equation. So, first of all, we can simply divide it by 2 to come up with s4 plus 6s square plus 8 is equals to 0, or we can also, when finding out roots, you will see the roots of this equation are s square plus 4 s square plus 2 is equals to 0 and s will be equals to plus minus 2j, and the root of this equation is so this is a different root and this is a different root, so we will say our system is stable. Now, if these two roots would have been equal, let us say for example, this is plus minus 2j and this would also be equal to plus minus 2j. In that case, both of these roots are equal, then your system would have been unstable. But in this case, our roots are different. This root is plus minus 2j and this root is plus minus under root 2j. So since these two roots are different, so our system is a stable system. Let us solve another example related to case 3 and 4 of the Routh-Hurwitz stability criteria. We have this characteristic equation of a closed loop transfer function and we need to find out the stability using Routh-Hurwitz criteria. First of all, we need to check whether there is any negative sign in this equation, because if there is a single negative sign, so it means that at least one of the pole will lie on the right hand side and your system will be unstable. In that case, you don't need to apply Routh criteria. Since this all the coefficients are positive. Now we can apply Routh-Hurwitz criteria. So we'll actually place S in descending order. We'll fill the first two rows. That is 1. We'll skip this one. We'll use this one, which is 4. Then we'll skip this one. We'll use this one, which is 5, and the last term, which is 2. Similarly, in the same way, we'll fill the second row terms, starting from this term, which is 3. Skip this term and use this term, which is 6. We'll skip this term and use this term, which is 3, and then 0. So again, for this term, we'll multiply this with this. 4 multiplied by 3 minus 6 divided by 3. So we'll get 12 minus 6 by 3 is equals to 6 by 3 is equals to 2 here. Okay, and for this one, we'll multiply 3 with 5. That is 5 multiplied by 3 minus 1 multiplied by 3 whole divided by 3. So 15 minus 3 divided by 3 is equals to 12 by 3 is equals to 4. So here we'll get 4. Okay. So for this term we'll get 2 again. Okay. For this term we'll actually skip this one, 3 multiplied by 2 and 1 multiplied by 0 divided by 3. Okay. So for this term, we'll multiply 2 with 6, that is 6 multiplied by 2 minus 4 multiplied by 3, that is this with this one, this with this one, and divided by 2, and this will be 0. Okay. Again, for this, if we multiply this with this and this with this, we'll again get 0. And for this, we'll also get 0. Since this whole row is 0, so we'll use the auxiliary equation concept. Now the auxiliary equation for this will be taken from here, which is 2s4 plus 4s square plus 2 is equals to 0. So then we derivate this equation to get 8s cube plus 8s is equals to 0. So these are the terms for this s cube. Eight, and then 0, 0. Now for s square, we'll multiply this term with this term and this term with this term and divided it by 8. Four multiplied by 8 minus 16 divided by 8 is equals to 32 minus 16 divided by 8 is equals to 16 by 8. 16. 2 here and because 16 will also get 2 here. Okay. Now if we solve this one, zero and 0. So if you fill the row for s to the power 1, you will again get 0. So here once again you will have to use the auxiliary equation technique for s to the power 1, and for that we'll use this, which is 2s square plus 2 is equals to 0 Then we will derivate it d upon ds. 4s is equals to 0. So here we will replace it with 4 and then 0. Okay, and S0 is 2. Now, for stability, we have already discussed it that if you are using auxiliary equation, then you need to make sure that two conditions are met for stability. Condition number 1 is the first column has no sign change. Now here all of the terms has positive sign, there is no sign change, so that condition is fulfilled. The next condition is the roots of your auxiliary equation must be different. Now let us find out the roots here. So S4 plus 2s square plus 2 is equals to 0. Okay. S square sorry, this is 1. S square plus 1 का whole square is equals to 0. S square plus 1 is equals to 0. S square plus 1 is equals to 0. Or if you move it over there, S square is equals to minus 1 and S square is equals to minus 1. And if you take the square root, you will get plus minus j here and again plus minus j here. This is equals to 0. S square plus 1 is equals to 0 and S is equals to plus minus j. Now this root and this root, since all of these roots they are equal, so it means that our system is a stable system because this condition is met, but this condition is not met, which means that our system is an unstable system.